I'm going to be sharing a story of a man named Brett Sullivan. He's a former hockey player, and concussions have affected his life. He says, "Unfortunately, concussions have been the story of my life. My life and all my decisions that have come with it have been affected by my concussions. Not being able to finish school and not able to play the only game I knew. Relationships that ended due to personality changes. Losing people that close to me, I have developed a bit of an anger issue. Losing all confidence in myself and looking into the mirror and seeing an exhausted, miserable person after that day. It's tough. Some days are extremely hard to get through, and there is no denying that. Mental illness has affected my life every day since my last concussion in March 2015. I have dealt with anxiety, depression, panic attacks, and lacks of sleep. All of these factors have affected me to the point where the person I once was seemed to be gone. According to DoSomething.org, in the U.S., athletes suffer from around 300,000 concussions every year, and at least 25% of those concussions are failed to ever seen by a physician or a doctor. Concussions occur can occur at all levels and at any time. This injury mostly occurs in physical contact sports, whether it be in middle school, high school, college, professional. It has been an issue that is very controversial. I have done countless hours of research on this topic because it has affected me in my life, and I think it is a huge issue. I have received concussions before, and I believe they're very challenging. Now let's look at what a concussion is. According to the CDC, a concussion is a type of traumatic brain injury caused by a bump or jolt to the head that causes a body to move rapidly back and forth. This sudden movement can cause the brain to twist around in the skull, creating chemical changes in a brain that sometimes stretch and damaging brain cells. Our brain is made up of soft tissues and spinal fluid, and it works as like a protective shell or helmet. Now that you know what a concussion is, let's look at the most common ways you can get a concussion. Most common ways to receive a concussion, the first is direct head trauma. It is the first and most common way that people receive concussions, which means it is a direct hit to your head that snaps it backwards. Surprisingly enough, people think that when you get concussions that it comes directly from the front, which isn't actually the case. Most concussions are actually from the side blow to your head that you will not see coming, that jolts your head. According to neurotracker.net, there is a link between neck strains and injuries like whiplashes and concussions. Whether this is a form of a car accident or a huge hit in football, many causes of whiplash or a similar neck injury conclude with a concussion. So there's falling too. People don't realize, but falling is a huge part that ends up leading to concussions. So have you ever been in the wintertime, especially living in Idaho, and you've been walking and slipped on ice and fell? Well, right there is a whiplash. So let's say you slip and fall and hit your head. You can definitely get a concussion very easily if you're not careful enough. People have received concussions from getting into their cars and in many other foolish ways that they never thought possible. Now, let's talk about the effects of concussions. When it comes to concussions, there are two different types of concussions. There are short-term and long-term effects. First, we will talk about the short-term. Short-term effects start immediately after the blow. You may receive headaches, temporary loss, consciousness, nausea. You may be feeling a fog. Now, a lot of people are confused if you've never had one. A fog is like when you are trying to think of something and your whole brain just feels like there's a fog over it, and every time you walk around, you don't feel like yourself. There's also ringing of the ears, nausea, and vomiting. Now, a lot of people will say if you're vomiting, you're having more problems than concussions, but doctors have found out that if you have an extreme enough concussion, you are most likely going to vomit. There is blurred vision and sensitivity to light. Those are all the short-term things that you will feel right away if you have received a concussion. Then there is long-term memory, which is even scarier because you don't know it right away. You may experience trouble concentrating, memory problems, and other irritability, other personal changes in your personal life too. Another thing that a lot of people battle with when it comes to older, seeing that I've researched on football players and hockey players and just normal people that have had a lot of concussions, is they feel psychological problems. They feel depression and other things that can really affect their life that they never thought of when they were younger. I just want us to all think about what I was saying about Brett Sullivan earlier and how it affected his life. And he never thought that concussions would change the person he was and ruin relationships. Lastly, I want to talk about the recovery of concussions. There are many steps that need to be followed to properly recover from a concussion. First, you will need to be evaluated from your concussion, whether you have a physician or a doctor that is exactly trained for concussions. Then you will know how bad your symptoms are and how long you need to take off work or school or anything. The next step you need to do is rest, both mentally and physically. You should not be doing any activities. You should not be doing schoolwork. Doctors have found that for at least the first week, you should not do any type of physical activity. The next step you should do is maintaining a healthy diet. Eating fruits and vegetables can give you antioxidants. You should consume protein. It contains congestive deficits after the concussion, and eating foods with omega-3 can help your neurons, which helps your brain to a faster recovery. Staying hydrated is another part of concussions. A lot of people, when they do become dehydrated, their head starts hurting. They have headaches. Well, if you think you've had a headache, try having a concussion and then being dehydrated on top of that. It is such an extreme pain that no one should have to go through. According to headwayfoundation.com, they say that turning off electronic screens and putting strains on the brain injury. Did you know that LCD screens, phones, computers constantly flicker? This allows the screen to update new information in order to scroll the video. The flickering is invisible to the naked eye, but it strains our eye muscles as they attempt to keep up with new information. This is why sitting in front of the computer can give you headaches, let alone someone who has sustained a concussion. Now that you know the recovery of concussions, let's review what we talked about today. We talked about what concussions are, then we talked about ways to receive a concussion, and then we talked about the recovery of concussions. Concussions can happen to anyone, anywhere. It is more importantly that we know how to handle them if we do receive one. There's a very scary thing, the elephant in the room, and that is the later on down the road. You should take care of yourself. You never know. You could feel depression or have other problems that could affect you long term. I hope that you help someone, or if you can help yourself identify one soon, that you can get help today. Let yourself heal. Thank you.